Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you back. Let's get started. And I want to ask you a question or maybe explore a feeling. Do you ever feel dread when you think about working out? Do you ever feel like, oh, this is another cycle of me trying to go on a diet and trying to lose weight and trying to follow this program? I get so many people asking me, how do you stick to a workout plan? How do I get started? What do I need to do? What is the most efficient to achieve way to achieve results? And also, there's a lot of guilt that comes with it, right? People often ask, how do you make sure that you keep track and you're still moving forward and sticking to your plan? People will say, I feel like I can never stick to a plan. So there's a lot of people not knowing when to get started on working out, but also a lot of guilt associated with it. I have to go to the gym. I didn't go to the gym. I don't really like going to the gym. So today I wanted to come in here and talk about how we define fitness and how we define movement, and really dive deeper into what is truly needed for us to have a body that is functional and to be able to avoid some of the diseases that could easily be prevented by us having more physical activity. And really, what I want to do in this video is not show you another workout plan, another program that you need to follow, but really put emphasis on how we can make movement a practice. I feel like that's the missing piece. And I feel like for me, this was a revelation. This was a revelation in the way that I was approaching movement. It was a revelation to the point that now I don't even need to think about whether or not I'm moving enough, whether or not I'm walking enough throughout the day, whether or not I'm spending enough calories, because the baseline is already covered, and then it's just up to me to put on the cherry on top of the cake. So let's just get started, and I want to start this conversation by redefining what I call movement, and really differentiating it from mainstream culture, mainstream fitness culture. The way we talk about movement and fitness within our modern culture, we talk about exercise. And if we reframe exercise didn't exist like 10,000 years ago. People didn't necessarily organize and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go on this like 10-kilometer run and do this as a way to like sweat. It just didn't exist 10,000 years ago, or 5,000 years ago. It wasn't a thing. So it is a modern invention, and we it's a modern invention that we also created an economic system around it. We created a guild system also around it, telling people, oh, you're lazy, or you don't care about your health because you're not moving and you're not going to like this run club or doing this 10-kilometer run. And the way I think about movement, I really try to make a separation between movement and what I call working out. For me, movement is an essential part of your day. It should be a baseline, it should be a practice, it should be something that is just integrated within the way you live your life. And then working out is an add-on for me. It's something that you do as a compliment. It's something that you do because it is fun, because you want to spend time with your friends, because you want to challenge you. It is about play, and play is such an important component of life, and I will talk about the importance of play in another video. But for me, the baseline and what people should focus on is movement. And one of the best ways to get in movement within our life and our days is walking. And now you're here thinking, oh my god, I did not come to this video for you to tell me about walking. But actually, the truth is that as human beings, we are a walking species. We are a walking species. So let's talk about humans as a walking species. Dr. David Lieberman, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'll write it down somewhere that way you can see how it's written. He's an Harvard professor. He did a lot of studies around evolution and around how humans evolved to walk. How were our ancestors living their life? How much physical activity were they getting? And when we talk about physical activity, most of the time it was around walking. And what he found was that we are a walking species. Our bodies evolved to walk and to walk during long distances. And what is interesting is that I talk on this channel about how much we sit, but our ancestors also used to sit for long hours, approximately 10 hours per day, which is kind of what we do in modern society, at least in North America. But they were also walking a lot. They were walking between, I think, 5 to 8 kilometers per day, over 10,000 steps every single day. So our bodies evolved to walk. That's what we were meant to do. Now we have this evolutionary mismatch, as he says it himself, which is that our society evolved for humans to not want to walk. If you think about it, if you look around yourself and people, let's say you're taking the metro, if there are elevators or escalators, everybody will want to take the escalators and nobody takes the stairs, because we're just wired as humans to save energy. And that's why we want to use the easiest method to get to where we want to get and save as much energy as possible. So if you do not want to put yourself in a gym, if you do not feel like stepping on a treadmill to work out, I mean, it's normal, and you shouldn't feel guilt about that, because it is absolutely normal not to want to do that. It's a fabricated environment, and it is an environment and an activity that we do on a voluntary basis, and it is not needed. The difference between us and our ancestors is that back in the days, when our ancestors were alive, they had to walk. They had to walk to get water. They had to walk to get food. They had to walk to hunt, to move places, to protect themselves against weather events. There, it was just a necessary part of survival. And now we live in a world where it is not necessary anymore, which means that it takes an inhuman, it takes an effort for us to say, you know what, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to do that. And he also says in one of his podcasts, that I will link in the description down below, that most of the time we try to numb ourselves to this activity by listening to music, by doing all these things, because it is not fun. It's not something that we want to do, and it just makes sense. But so now at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, so you said that we're a walking species, we should be walking more, but you also said that it is not, we have an evolutionary mismatch, so it is not essential for us to walk. We have a problem, right? And yes, you're right. It means that you followed the video very closely and you're listening to what I'm saying. So I'm really happy about that. So there is an evolutionary mismatch. And how do we solve that problem? Well, the solution to that problem is what I said at the beginning: movement as a practice, walking as a practice. And it is the purpose of this whole channel. How do we make movement fun, and how do we integrate it within our daily lives? The goal, and what I've been working on, is making sure that movement is integrated in a way that I don't have to think about doing it. Let me give you an example. And this is an example that is particular to me and how I live my life and some of the choices that I made, and that's why I'm having the result that I'm having. Obviously, everybody is different. We all have different lives, so your result will be different. But for example, I do not have a car, I do not drive, but I live 15 minutes away from my office, which means that every time I have to go to the office, I have to walk 15 minutes to get there, 15 minutes back. So that's walking. Every time I have to go get groceries, I have no choice but to walk. Every time I have to go somewhere, I'm either walking there or I'm taking the metro, which involves a mix of walking and having to go there. So I've kind of designed my life in a way that I have to walk a lot of times. And also, I'm very fortunate that I live in a neighborhood where I actually have to walk. Everything is kind of close, so I can walk to different places. Now, I do know that some people live in cities where it's just, there's some cities, for example, Austin, Texas. Why is this city like this? Like, you cannot walk anywhere. Everything is designed for a car. So, in that situation, you kind of have to find ways to do it in a fun way. For example, if you have kids, you can say, I'm going to use time and instead of watching TV with the kids, let's just take them outside in the yard. Let's just take them to a park, and instead of sitting down on a chair and scrolling on your phone. It could be playing with the kids. For example, one of my favorite things to do is just to walk with some friends and have a catch up while walking. I love doing that. We stop, we look at the sun, we look at flowers, we look at shops maybe that we want to purchase stuff from. It is just a leisurely walk to catch up, and that's a different way. Instead of just going to a restaurant and eating, sitting down and eating, that's a different way for you to catch up with friends and get some movement in. Another way you can do that is, for example, if you're at the office, instead of sending a Teams message for a conversation or having a virtual meeting, you can actually walk to the person, take the extra mile and walk to the person and say, hey, I thought I would just pass by your office and have a conversation, have a little bit of a chat. So we really have to create a culture where movement is just part of our daily lives. Instead, for example, of taking a phone call, sit it down, maybe standing up. Walking meetings, I already talked about that. That's such a lovely way of doing that. Another thing that I personally enjoy doing is walking as meditation. We often talk about the importance of mindfulness, the importance of being away from all the influences and the overloading that we have online. So you can decide, you know what, I'm going to have a mindfulness walk. This is my time for me to refresh on my ideas, get a clear mind. And that very often happens when people walk, when people run, they're able to get that clear mind. So hopefully you can understand the shift that I'm proposing here. The shift that I'm proposing here is walking as a social practice, walking as something that serves a purpose. For example, my parents recently started this ritual where after every lunch they go on a walk together. It's a way for them to bond, it's a way for them to have a physical activity, but because they're doing it together, it's fun. And that's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing walking as something that serves us as socially, but also serves us in our daily lives and integrated within our daily tasks. That's how we solve the problem of movement as a practice. And then if you do want to lift heavy, and let me stop here because I think that's a question that people are going to ask me. And yes, I'm saying that walking is the baseline and everybody should aim to walk as much as possible. And what is interesting is we often throw around that figure of 10,000 steps a day. People always talk about that. If you don't know, this figure has no scientific basis. Actually, the research shows that, especially in the early stages, if you go from not walking at all, if you're walking like 2,000 steps, for example, a day, if you go from 2,000 steps to 3,000, 4,000, you get compounds benefit from that increase in physical activity. And then the recommended average would be around 7,000 steps per day. But just going from being sedentary, mostly sedentary, to increasing the volume of activity slowly and slowly every day, you get amazing benefits. So it's not just about walking 10,000 steps and like being walking all the time, but it's about slowly increasing the amount of time that you're walking, slowly increasing the amount of activities that you have surrounded walking around walking. And I'm not saying you should aim to double your level of activity from starting tomorrow. No, but you could think about what are some little ways that I could integrate walking within my practice, within my life. Sometimes, guys, I just find ways to walk. Sometimes I just decide, you know what, today is the day. I have to throw out the trash and I have to do all these things. Like, let me just go on a walk and do that instead of procrastinating and staying at home. Every little thing matters. Every single thing matters. Every single thing matters. Remember, we're a moving species. We're meant to move. We're meant to walk. So anything that you can do to get that going is super important, even if it's little steps, little movements. Now, let's piggyback to the question of lifting. Lifting is super important. It's resistance training with progressive overload. You're supposed to start at a certain weight and then lift higher. The reason why I'm not talking about this and not making it the main focus of this video is because we're looking for baseline activity. Yes, as you get older, resistance training is so important, but we live in a society where people are not even able to get the minimum activity level that is required for prevention of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. So I think the focus should definitely be, as we get started, on establishing movement as a practice, and then we can have those other add-ons that are extremely important. For example, stability training is increasingly important as you get older. But what I really wanted to focus on in this video is talking about the importance of walking and having walking as a practice. And I think that should be the core of the video. And ultimately, I hope it releases some of you from this guilt and this pressure that we have around, I have to go to the gym, I have to be a workout to work out, I am a failure if I'm not working out, if I don't have this gym subscription. It's also about financial stress. A lot of people, especially around New Year's, they spend a lot of money on the gym and then they end up not going, and it's just a wasted money that could be invested doing something else, right? So the shift would be, how do I make sure that I'm able to integrate movement in my day-to-day life in a way that is seamless, in a way that is fun, and I get to connect with people. And that's how you build habits that keep you going. And that's what this channel is all about. If you want some advice, there's videos on my channel where I talk about it, and I will be continuing to share some content. Also, I want you to share. I want to hear from you. I want to hear if you have tips on how you get more movement in, how you've integrated walking within your life. I think that would be fantastic. So that's it for me. Hopefully that was interesting. A little bit of science, a little bit of personal storytelling on how I integrate walking and why I think this is the best and the only workout plan people truly need. That's it. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.